I'm Nathan Reed, retired Delta Force operator, widower, father to Ava, my disabled daughter. This is our stand against a tyrant. 7 years ago, my wife Rachel was killed in a home invasion, leaving me to raise Ava alone. Ava, now 10, has cerebral palsy and uses a wheelchair, but her courage and sharp mind could outmatch any soldier. We settled in Oak Ridge Pines, a suburban enclave in western Tennessee, seeking a safe, accessible community. As a retired Delta Force operator, I'd hung up my gear taking a private security trainer job to stay near Ava. Oak Ridge's wide sidewalks and community centers seemed perfect for her, but I didn't foresee the malice of Cynthia Cindy Vaughn, the HOA president who turned our sanctuary into a combat zone. Oak Ridge Pines was marketed as a close-knit haven, but Cindy, a 62-year-old former school administrator, with a tight bun and a dictator's zeal, ruled it like a prison camp. Her HOA mandates were oppressive. No unapproved lawn decor, no kids' toys outside, even limits on window shades. Her community pride was a mask for control enforced with fines and public shaming. I ignored her initial notices about my mailbox being off-center. Ava's needs therapy wheelchair maintenance kept me too busy for her nonsense. But Cindy's obsession soon zeroed in on us, starting with barbed comments that escalated into a vicious campaign. It began at a 4th of July potluck in the community center. Ava and I arrived, her wheelchair adorned with red and blue ribbons she'd tied herself. Neighbors welcomed us kids, offering Ava cookies and admiring her sparkly sneakers. Cindy, stationed by the punch bowl, watched with a sneer. As I pushed Ava to the dessert table, Cindy swooped in, her voice dripping with false warmth. "Nathan, Ava's sweet, but that chair's a bit cumbersome for events. Maybe a sleeker model next time." I kept my tone. Even my Delta training kicking in, her wheelchair's her freedom. Cindy, "She stays." She pursed her lips and walked off, but her glare promised war. Cindy's hostility sharpened through the summer. She sent violation notices for disruptive activity when Ava's physical therapist visited, claiming the van clogged the street. She called our accessibility ramp a visual nuisance. Despite its compliance with county codes, neighbors murmured about her fixation, but stayed quiet, cowed by her influence. Cindy's HOA board, a loyal clique of retirees, backed her every decree. She'd find a family $1,500 for an unauthorized treehouse and threatened foreclosure over a late fee. I tried diplomacy, but my patience was eroding. The real fight started in fall, when Ava discovered the community center's art room. She loved painting, her hands steady as she created vibrant landscapes despite her condition. The art room, with its wide tables and sunny windows, became her refuge. But Cindy saw Ava's presence as a flaw. One crisp afternoon, as Ava painted a sunset, Cindy barged in, clipboard in hand. "Nathan, this room isn't equipped for her needs," she said loudly, drawing stares from other kids. "It's a safety issue." I stood, my voice firm. "Ava's no hazard, Cindy. She belongs here." She stormed out, but I knew she was plotting. By winter, Cindy's crusade intensified. She plastered Oak Ridge with signs, "No mobility devices," in community spaces for safety and aesthetics. It was a blatant attack on Ava. At the HOA meeting, I confronted her. "This violates the ADA. Cindy, you're targeting my daughter." She smirked, arms crossed. "Nathan, the HOA safeguards our image. If you don't like it, leave." Murmurs filled the room. A few neighbors nodded with her, but others looked uneasy. I left furious and called my old Delta buddy Lisa, now a lawyer specializing in disability rights. She confirmed the signs were illegal, but legal battles were slow, and Cindy was banking on that. Tensions surged into spring. Cindy's allies shunned us. Someone spray painted, "Get out," on our driveway, and I reported it as vandalism, but no witnesses emerged. Ava sensed the cold stares, asking, "Why does Cindy hate me?" "Daddy," I hugged her, my heart breaking. "She's scared of your strength, Ava. We'll prove her wrong." Cindy's ego swelled. She posted on social media about upholding Oak Ridge's elegance, her photos showcasing a joyless suburb. She fined kids for hopscotch drawings, calling them vandalism. The community was choking, but I refused to yield. The art room became our front line. Cindy patrolled it daily, barking at kids for spills and banning certain crafts. Ava still painted. So I stayed close, my Delta instincts sharp despite my civilian life. Each visit was a standoff. Cindy would hover, muttering about disruptions, while I watched Ava, my resolve steel hard. Some neighbors whispered support. Others parroted Cindy's rules matter line. I overheard her call Ava a liability at a barbecue. My fists clenched, but I held back for Ava's sake. On a muggy June evening, the storm broke. The community center was hosting a kids' art show, Ava's sunset painting displayed proudly. Families mingled and Ava beamed as kids complimented her work. I stood nearby alert but hopeful. Cindy arrived, her usual clipboard replaced by a handgun legal in Tennessee, but chilling in her grip. She scanned the room, her eyes locking on Ava. Then she marched to the wall and taped up a sign, "Mobility devices prohibited in community spaces." Effective immediately, gasps spread. A neighbor, Mrs. Torres, whispered, "She's lost it." I stepped forward, but Cindy was already moving toward Ava. "Nathan, this chair's a danger," Cindy shouted, her voice silencing the room. "It's cluttering the space." Ava's wheelchair was neatly parked by a table out of the way. I moved closer. "Cindy, that's Ava's mobility. Leave her alone?" She ignored me, her face twisted with rage. "I'm enforcing order," she spat, raising the gun and pointing it at Ava. The crowd froze. Ava whimpered. "Daddy," I lunged, heart pounding, but Cindy held steady, the barrel aimed at my daughter's chest. "Move her or I will," she screamed. Neighbors gasped, some filming, others yelling. I raised my hands, my Delta training, screaming to disarm her, but I was unarmed, my weapons long gone. "Put it down, Cindy," I said, my voice low, lethal. She laughed, oblivious. "You're just a pushy dad. I run this place." I locked eyes with her, stepping between Ava and the gun. "I'm retired. Delta Force." "Cindy, you're threatening my daughter. Drop it." Her face paled, the gun wavering. A neighbor's call to 911 brought sirens and police stormed in, ordering Cindy to disarm. She dropped the gun, stammering, "I didn't mean..." Officers cuffed her as I scooped Ava up, her sobs piercing my soul. The crowd erupted, some cheering, others crying, as Cindy was led away. The community center was a whirlwind of chaos as officers dragged Cindy away. Her protests swallowed by the clamor of sirens. Her face, once smug with authority, was now a mask of disbelief, her hands twisting in the cuffs. "This is absurd," she shrieked, but the neighbors clustered in the art room weren't listening. Ava clung to me, her small frame trembling, her wheelchair still parked where Cindy had threatened her. I knelt, whispering, "You're safe, Ava. I've got you." Her tear-streaked nod broke my heart, but her trust fueled my resolve. This wasn't just an arrest, it was the beginning of tearing down Cindy's empire of fear. Police secured the scene, confiscating Cindy's gun and ushering families out. Paramedics checked Ava, confirming no physical injuries but noting her distress. "She's in shock," a medic said. "Keep her calm and consider therapy." I nodded, my Delta training keeping me steady. The rage simmered beneath. I'd faced insurgents in war zones. Yet I hadn't seen Cindy's threat coming. Mrs. Torres, tears in her eyes, hugged Ava, promising to visit. Neighbors lingered, some filming, others offering support. The viral video posted on X by a parent was already spreading, capturing Cindy's gun-waving fury and Ava's terrified cry. I carried Ava home, my mind racing. This was personal, but it was also a mission. At home, I settled Ava in her room, her stuffed bear tucked under her arm. She was quiet, her usual spark dimmed. "Daddy, why'd she point a gun at me?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I sat beside her, my throat tight. "She's angry at the world, Ava. Not you. We'll make this right." After she slept, I checked my phone. X was ablaze with Ashonor Oak Ridge. Karen, the video racking up millions of views. Comments called Cindy a terrorist and Ava a hero. Local news reached out, but I declined, focusing on Ava. My Delta instincts kicked in: assess, protect, counterattack. The next morning, I took Ava to her pediatrician, Dr. Patel, to ensure she was okay. He recommended a therapist for trauma, warning that fear could linger. "She's resilient, but this was extreme." He said. I nodded, guilt gnawing at me. I'd underestimated Cindy's malice. Back home, neighbors left notes and cookies on our porch, some apologizing for staying silent under Cindy's rule. Mrs. Torres stopped by, her voice heavy. "We let her bully us too long," she said. No more. I thanked her, sensing a tide turning. Oak Ridge was waking up, and Cindy's actions had sparked a rebellion. I filed charges against Cindy: aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, child endangerment, and disability-based harassment under ADA violations. Lisa, my lawyer friend, dove into the case, warning that Cindy's connections, a few local council members, and HOA loyalists might complicate things. She'll play the victim, Lisa said, but that video's a death knell. I also reported the HOA's discriminatory signs to the Department of Justice's ADA division, which launched an investigation. The no mobility devices signs were removed by noon, but the damage was done. Ava's confidence was shaken, and I'd move mountains to restore it. Cindy's first court appearance was a spectacle. She arrived in a tailored blazer, her lawyer spinning a tale of misunderstanding and community safety. Cindy claimed she'd only brandished the gun to enforce rules, insisting Ava's wheelchair disrupted the art show. The lie was laughable, and the video played in court obliterated her defense. Ava's whimper echoed, and Cindy flinched. Judge Carver, a no-nonsense woman with a military background, set a high bail citing the reckless threat. Cindy's allies paid it. But her reputation was in tatters. Her social media, once a shrine to Oak Ridge's perfection, was flooded with condemnation, forcing her to go dark. Oak Ridge's response was seismic. At an emergency HOA meeting, residents packed the community center. Their anger electric. I attended Ava at home with a sitter, her fear a constant reminder of why I was there. Mrs. Torres took the floor, her voice trembling. Cindy ruled us with terror. Fines, threats now. Guns were done. Cheers erupted, a shy retiree. Mr. Hayes admitted Cindy had fined him $2,000 for a non-compliant shed, forcing him to dip into savings. Stories poured out. Families harassed, kids scolded, creativity crushed. The HOA board cornered, suspended Cindy, and promised elections, but the crowd demanded accountability. Cindy's loyalists pushed back. A handful of neighbors clinging to her standards posted on X that Ava's presence provoked the incident, claiming wheelchairs cluttered the Center One road. Reed's using his military past to bully Cindy. The backlash was swift. X-users tore them apart, and the posts vanished. But the division hurt. Ava overheard a kid at the park whisper, "Her dad's making trouble." She came home quiet, asking, I bad daddy?" I knelt beside her. "You're a star, Ava." They're just learning. I vowed to shield her from the noise while dismantling Cindy's legacy. The community began to rally. Mr. Hayes organized a Paint for Ava event at the art room, raising funds for her therapy and a new wheelchair. Families showed up, kids helping Ava paint a mural of stars, her smile flickering back. A new center sign read, "All are welcome." But Cindy's shadow lingered. Her lawyer filed motions to dismiss, arguing lack of intent and media bias. Lisa countered with testimonies from Mrs. Torres, the art room teen volunteer, and others who'd seen Cindy's months-long vendetta. The case was ironclad, but Cindy's defiance tested my patience. By fall, the trial neared, and Oak Ridge was transforming. The HOA elections ousted Cindy's board, electing Mrs. Torres and Mr. Hayes, who prioritized accessibility. They installed a wheelchair-accessible art table funded by donations. Neighbors defied Cindy's rules. Colorful yard art, sprouted kids drew chalk galaxies, and a family hung a swing. Cindy's sterile vision was fading, replaced by vibrancy. But Ava struggled. Nightmares of the gun haunted her, and she flinched at loud noises. Her therapist, Dr. Lynn, helped her cope. But I blame myself. I should have acted sooner. The trial began in November. A media storm. Reporters swarmed the courthouse, and X buzzed with updates. Cindy testified, her voice quivering, claiming she'd panicked and never meant to harm Ava. Her lawyer painted her as a devoted leader, undone by a misjudgment. Lisa shredded the narrative, presenting Cindy's text to her board, calling Ava a problem and plotting to force Reed out. The video played again, Ava's cries silencing the room. The teen volunteer Mia testified about Cindy's relentless bullying. Her voice steady, Mrs. Torres recounted the driveway vandalism, linking it to Cindy's allies. The jury's faces darkened. Cindy's defense called her cronies who mumbled about community order, but their claims crumbled. Lisa's closing argument was fierce. Cynthia Vaughn didn't just threaten Ava. She threatened our humanity, targeting a child for her disability. Justice demands consequences. The jury deliberated for 5 hours. The verdict: guilty on all counts, aggravated assault, child endangerment, and harassment. Cindy's shoulders slumped. Judge Carver sentenced her to 4 years in prison, $25,000 in restitution, and mandatory sensitivity training. The courtroom cheered, and I exhaled relief washing over me. Oak Ridge breathed easier. Cindy's imprisonment ended her reign, and her house sold to a family who painted it teal, defying her rules. The DOJ's investigation fined the HOA $80,000 redirecting funds to accessibility upgrades. Ava's new wheelchair with star decals arrived, and she named it Galaxy. She tested it in the art room, painting a comet as Mia clapped, her laughter returning. I watched, my throat tight, knowing she was reclaiming her joy. The guilty verdict was a seismic shift, ripping apart Cindy's stranglehold on Oak Ridge pines and sparking a wave of renewal. As winter draped western Tennessee in frost, I channeled my energy into Ava's recovery, her spirit, and her sense of safety, and into fostering the community's awakening. Cindy's 4-year sentence silenced her influence, her loyalists retreating into the shadows, their power crumbling like dry leaves. Her old house, now home to a lively family with twin boys, burst with colorful holiday decorations, a bold rejection of her joyless standards. But healing was a rugged trail. Ava's fear lingered, her trust in the world shaken, and I grappled with the guilt of not neutralizing Cindy's threat sooner. Yet Ava's resilience, her quiet giggles, her fierce determination, kept me anchored. Oak Ridge was reborn. Mrs. Torres and Mr. Hayes, the new HOA leaders, launched an Oak Ridge Embraces initiative, hosting workshops on disability rights and community unity. The art room's accessible table installed for Ava became a hub for creativity. Kids painted alongside a teen with Down syndrome, and an elderly neighbor with a walker sketched flowers. Ava's wheelchair, now a symbol of triumph, rolled through, kids taping glitter to its wheels during a holiday craft fair. At a New Year's lantern release, Ava lit the first one, her face glowing as it soared. Neighbors cheered, and I saw strength in her eyes, a spark Cindy couldn't snuff out. Not everyone welcomed the change. A few of Cindy's diehards, led by a pompous realtor named Gerald, grumbled about the excessive accessibility upgrades, claiming they cheapened Oak Ridge's look. Gerald posted on X, "This HOA's gone woke, wasting funds on one kid." The response was brutal. Residents flooded his post with photos of Ava painting, caption, "This is family." Gerald's wife, humiliated, dragged him to a community potluck to apologize. "We were scared of Cindy," she admitted. I shook her hand, understanding their fear, but relieved they were shifting. Oak Ridge's transformation was rocky, but it was taking root. Ava's therapy with Dr. Lynn was a cornerstone. She painted the gun incident, her brushstrokes turning the weapon into a storm cloud. Dr. Lynn helped her reframe it, casting Ava as a star, breaking through the dark one session. Ava brought home a painting of herself in her wheelchair, a constellation trailing behind labeled Star Ava. I hung it above her bed next to her sunset canvas. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said, her voice steady. Her nightmares waned, replaced by dreams of art. In Friends, I marveled at her courage, knowing she was teaching me as much as I was protecting her. Legally, Cindy's case lingered. She appealed her conviction, arguing the viral video's publicity tainted the jury. Lisa, our lawyer, was ready, filing a civil suit for Ava's therapy costs and emotional distress. The appeal crawled through the courts, but Cindy's odds were slim. The video texts and testimonies were a fortress. The DOJ's investigation concluded, mandating 5 years of ADA compliance audits for the HOA. The $80,000 fine funded a wheelchair-accessible playground, with Ava choosing the slide-color Galaxy Blue. At the opening, she rolled down, first giggling as kids followed. The local paper ran a photo: "Ava Reed paints Oak Ridge's future." Cindy's prison time seemed to humble her, or so she claimed. A year in, she sent a letter to Ava and me, her handwriting uneven. She apologized, admitting her need for control had blinded her to compassion. She mentioned her sensitivity training, saying it changed her view. I read it with a Delta operator's skepticism, unsure if it was remorse or a parole ploy. Ava, wise beyond her 10 years, shrugged. "She can be sorry, Daddy, but I don't need her to like me." I hugged her, awed by her grace. I didn't reply to Cindy. Her words couldn't erase Ava's fear, and our focus was on rebuilding. Oak Ridge's revival extended beyond Ava families, silenced by Cindy's fines, a single mom harassed for her son's basketball hoop, a retiree scolded for his messy roses spoke out. The Oak Ridge Embraces program grew, hosting art nights where neighbors shared stories of Cindy's tyranny. One evening, a teen girl confessed Cindy had fined her family for a loud ukulele practice, forcing them to skip rent. The room rallied, and by morning yards sprouted signs, "Create freely." Cindy's gray world was buried under a burst of color and defiance. My work as a security trainer took on new purpose. I'd once neutralized threats and covert ops, but now I fought for inclusion, training local schools on accessibility and speaking at county meetings about equitable spaces. Colleagues called me Delta Dad, and I leaned into it, bringing Ava to safety workshops. She handed out star-shaped stickers explaining how art rooms make everyone shine. When the township approved an accessible community center wing, Ava unveiled the mural, her wheelchair gleaming. "This is for all of us," she said. And I choked up. She was rewriting Oak Ridge's soul. By summer, a year after the gun incident, the art room was a kaleidoscope of life. Kids painted murals, parents shared sketches, and the playground buzzed with laughter. Ava, her fear easing, painted daily. Mia helping her blend colors. Mia had started an art club for kids with disabilities inspired by Ava's spirit. At a community festival, Mrs. Torres unveiled a plaque by the art table. "Ava's studio where all create." Ava gasped, whispering, "That's me, Daddy." The crowd clapped and I fought tears. This was the Oak Ridge I'd fought for, a place where Ava soared. Cindy's release came quietly in the fall after 28 months with good behavior. She moved to a small apartment in a nearby town, her administrative career dead. A neighbor saw her at a gas station, looking worn, her head down. I didn't gloat. Her punishment was losing the power she'd wielded like a blade. On X, a few loyalists mourned her leadership, but most posts celebrated Oak Ridge's rebirth. One read, "From Nasher Oak Ridge, Karen to Nash Oak Ridge, embraces thank you, Ava." I showed it to Ava and she grinned. "I'm a superstar, Daddy." Ava's 11th birthday was an art room extravaganza planned by her art club. The room was decked with star balloons, and a cake shaped like a paintbrush sat on a table. Mia led a mural painting game, and kids took turns at the accessible table, calling it Ava's Galaxy. Mrs. Torres gave a speech, her voice thick. Ava and Nathan showed us what courage looks like. "Here's to them and to us," cheers erupted. Ava, in a starry dress, raised her juice cup. "To Oak Ridge," she shouted. I joined in, my heart full. This was her victory. The party stretched into dusk, fireflies twinkling over the playground. Ava rolled to me, her eyes bright. "Daddy, I love it here." I knelt, hugging her. "You made it worth loving, Ava." She laughed, then zoomed off to join her friends. I watched the pain of the past year fading. Cindy's threat had scarred us, but Ava's spirit had healed us. Oak Ridge wasn't just a suburb, it was a testament to a girl who turned fear into art. As winter loomed, I took Ava to Rachel's grave, our annual ritual. She placed a star-shaped flower on the headstone, whispering, "Mom, we're okay." I told Rachel about Ava's triumph, the art room's vibrancy. The breeze felt like her pride. Back home, Ava showed me a new painting, Star Ava soaring over a colorful town, neighbors waving. "This is us," she said. I hung it by her first canvas, knowing our story was still unfolding. Rooted in struggle, blooming with love. Oak Ridge kept growing. The HOA won a regional award for inclusivity, and Ava spoke at the ceremony, her voice clear. She rolled out in a cape Mia made, grinning for photos. I stood back, my Delta pride, in her boundless. Cindy was a shadow, her tyranny replaced by a community that saw Ava's light. As spring neared, Ava planned an art festival insisting on accessible easels. "Everyone paints," she said. I laughed, agreeing. She taught me that creativity was the fiercest rebellion. Years later, the gun incident was a crucible that forged us. Ava grew into an advocate, studying art therapy to heal others. Oak Ridge remained her home, its walls etched with her courage. Cindy faded into obscurity, a warning of control gone wrong. But Ava, she was a legend, her wheelchair, a chariot of change. And me, I was her dad, forever grateful for the girl who transformed a town, and my heart with her unbreakable starlight.